Hey, welcome back to the Modern Farming Podcast, where we bring you insights directly from the field about food, agriculture, and the incredible environment we all live in. And today we have another incredible guest that touches pretty much all of those. Emmanuel Roux, who runs the 15th Street Farm in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's a nonprofit foundation. I'll let Emmanuel explain it. But the really great thing is Brad and I got to work with Emmanuel here for the last 15 minutes or so, and we got a tour of the garden looking for a really good space to do this podcast. And I know where this is at. I've never been to the farm, but we love St. Petersburg. Obviously, we live about 20 minutes away. And for what I just saw on the screen here, for that to exist in the middle of downtown St. Petersburg is kind of mind blowing to us. So, Emmanuel, welcome to the podcast. Thanks you for joining us. And if you could maybe just give the listeners, what is the 15th Street Farm and what is the nonprofit foundation? I know your foundation is an urban educational farm, an organic urban educational farm. So if you could maybe just kind of share with everybody what you're working on and what you got going forward.
Good morning. Very nice to be with you. Thank you for inviting me. 15th Street Farm was started 15 years ago, and it was part of a drug and alcohol recovery center. And it owned about 10 lots in the heart of downtown. And it was surrounded by derelict houses, and now a few years later, those houses have been replaced by $1 million condos. So we're surrounded by new residential area. We're right in the heart of downtown, 4 blocks from Tropicana Field, or at least what's left of it. And it's half an acre now, and we recently built a commercial kitchen and an event space where we can seat 60 people. So we have tour groups this morning at 9 o'clock. We have some, I think there'll be 30 or 40 kids who will be coming, and we show them where their food comes from, and we let them connect with nature. We also run school gardens in 15 schools, and we install community gardens and home gardens in the community we're reviving a tradition in South St. Pete where until the 1960s, people were growing vegetables in their backyards, not because it was trendy, but because it was a necessity. Mm-hmm. So basically, that's what we are offering. We're offering dinners and lunches that are themed, and we offer a culinary experience that is also a cultural experience and a social experience. Everybody sits at long tables, and everything is served family style, because food brings people together. And our mission statement is that we facilitate learning and community building around good food from soil to fork. And this is what people come here to experience.
Incredible.
Excellent, E. No, I've been there on several occasions. The last one was for a meal that was just unbelievable, the atmosphere and the food. But kind of get back to where how you started. I mean, if you tore down buildings and it was a rock, limestone, I mean, it had to be nasty. How did you I mean, your soil is beautiful today. How did you regenerate that? What was the process?
Well, we brought in now about 330 tons of composted yard waste from the city. And over the years, that has fed the sand that we had, and we turned sand into soil, as you know, Brad. And yes, we do have a very rich, organic soil. I think in the last test that we had about 13% organic matter.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty high. Oh, and crop wise, I mean, you're pretty diverse. Oh, trees, herbs. I mean, what all you got going out there?
We grow, we have some fruit trees. We have a great diversity of product. Brassicas do particularly well. Carrots do well. We have papayas. And we also grow a lot of things that you would not find at the supermarkets. We grow, for example, Chinese celery that has red, thin stems. That is absolutely wonderful. And one of the things that we do is that we give tasting tours. So on Saturday morning, sometimes I do them, sometimes we have docents who do the tours, and we walk around the beds and taste things. So, and people are blown away by the fact that you can pick a leaf of something and eat it right away. And I make the point of telling them that they are covered with bacteria. And some people say, "Oh, can I eat it like this? Don't I have to wash it?" I said, "What do you want to wash off? You know, do you want to wash off the good stuff?" And sometimes I've told people, you know, I have a piece of saran wrap. If you want, I can wrap it in saran wrap if it will look more appetizing.
No, that's a good point. I know I've said before, I've heard Elaine Ingham say that soil scientist, biologist said in a healthy soil like what you have, you should actually be ingesting about 6 pounds of actual soil a year, just what's on your food. But after you pick it, don't wash
Yeah.
off your carrot, just eat it. Just
Well,
eat it.
now we ingest not only through the food, but I think it's about a credit card worth of plastic every 2 or 3 months or something absolutely mind-boggling.
Mm.
So
I
writing.
just read that same thing a while back, maybe a month ago, and how much of that is ending up in our brains is kind of frightening.
And in the pregnant women's placenta, in the brain, I'm writing a blog in the next few days. I've been doing some research on micro and nanoplastics as a new environment, because if you take 1 pound of clay, and that you not 1 pound, 1 kilo of clay, and that the surface of that clay is absolutely mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. It is up to, I think, 100,000 acres. No, that is 1 ton. Sorry. 1 ton is about 100,000 acres. So it would cover 50,000 acres, because obviously it has 2 sides. And so we're creating with all those microplastics and nanoplastics that are the size of of clay, we're creating a whole environment that bacteria are adapting to. And some of them are degrading it into simple chemical elements. Others are thriving on it and are creating some more toxic things. So we really have absolutely no idea of what is going on with that plastic, because it's carbon based, but bacteria are adapting a lot faster than we are to it. And so I'm not giving any answers. I'm asking questions, because I think that at this point, that is what there are many more questions than answers.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me back up here a little bit. How did the 15th Street Farm come about? What was was there a vision that you all started with, or did this sort of just kind of happen and then you said, hey, we should probably make something of this?
It happened organically, if I can say.
Sure.
There was the organization Faith House Florida started wanting to turn the land into a parking lot, and the city would not give them the permit because they wanted to generate income, because we're close to Tropicana Field.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of a parking lot, we turned it into an organic farm. And the idea was to do some horticulture therapy and to provide healthy food to the residents. That didn't quite work out the way we intended to, but in that was in 2010, and in 2016, federal funds were cut for that type of establishment. So we had to pivot, and the place was actually going to be sold. And a gentleman that I knew, who is a social entrepreneur, wanted to save it as an urban farm. And that's when we expanded the growing area. And then in 2018, we decided to build a kitchen. There was a lot of delays with permits and zoning, which we finally overcame, and we finished the construction of the kitchen and the event space last September, just before the hurricanes.
That's amazing. They can build $1 million condos next to you, but you can't build a kitchen to help the community. I should keep my mouth shut. But
Not only just one kitchen, they built hundreds of kitchens in one of those buildings. So kind of ironic. Well, so okay, so you kind of grew organically. What first turned you on, or maybe we don't know your background, Emmanuel, but have you been in agriculture? Have you been an ecologist, before you started the organic farm here, or?
No, I'm French, but my parents lived in Tunisia. My father had a farm. My grandfather had a farm. He planted a lot of olive trees. My father had a wheat farm, and pretty much like Kansas, and cattle as well. And in the early 60s, my father's farm was nationalized. We left Tunisia, but my parents had a summer home in Provence in France. and another farm near Toulouse that was a dairy farm, and it was a polyculture farm. And so I've always been raised on farms and sharing food, and my parents entertained a lot. So we had big parties on the weekend. And I studied hotel management in Switzerland. I came to the United States in 1975. I run one of the oldest private club in New York, in Manhattan, right off Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
And then I started a pasta company in Savannah. And then I moved slowly to Tampa. And then I crossed the bridge to St. Petersburg, where I had 3 restaurants. I ran out of gas there, and that's why I haven't gone any further. And I've been in St. Pete since 1993. I was the first restaurant that was open past 9 o'clock. And
Wow.
I promoted the arts and culture as an economic engine. And I shifted to urban agriculture in basically 2009.
Yeah, I know you're quite the chef, and you talk about that. I mean, I know your heart and soul is in community, and in the relationship when you love to talk about
Yeah,
the relationship and soil microbiome and gut, which that's the big buzz around the
indeed.
regenerative world today, and that's kind of you're on a lot of boards and institutes about that.
And one thing that really shaped my view is that I had an uncle who, in the 50s and the 60s, and even before that, was a well-known gastroenterologist in France, and he was one of the very first advocates of the connection between the soil and the human microbiome. So everything that is considered cutting edge today, I heard it in the 50s and the 60s. Now, he did not have the investigative tools that are available today, but he was very much aware of it. And he would spend every summer with us, with my parents. And at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I heard him talk about the soil and human microbiome. So those were part of my upbringing.
So when you folks bring groups to the farm, do you focus on any one demographic, an age group? Is it usually young kids or is it all ages?
It's all ages, but with an emphasis on children and young people. Um, and we have received grants from the USDA that are educational grants. We also got a grant from the Healthy St. Pete Foundation and the city of St. Pete, where we provide healthy, nutrient-dense food to pregnant women. We also have dinners that are community-based here. So it's a pretty broad audience. And with all of them, we show that we have university students also, and residents, doctors from local hospitals who come here, and we always place the emphasis on bacteria, because I think that to understand the world today, you have to be aware of the importance of bacteria. And if you try to save tigers and chimpanzees and uh, I support that, but you have to understand that it all starts with the soil and with bacteria. And I promote concept. I ask people how do they think that they can grow healthy food out of sick soils,
Mhm.
and so we need to take really a holistic approach to healthy, nutrient dense food and understand the soil. So, and not just focus on a small part of it. We have to understand the whole.
Yeah, Brad and I, for the last several weeks, have really focused on food and nutrition and the nutrient density of a lot of our foods, and that topic keeps coming up, which is, a lot of these farms, when you talk about what you're doing, on a half acre versus what the the ag complex is doing on millions of acres, it's really hard to even think about how we can increase the nutrition of our food when the majority of our soils that we grow corn, soybean, wheat, even a lot of other tree crops have been degraded over 200 plus years, with just practices that favored yield versus quality.
One thing that I like to point out is that uh, there is a parallel between performance enhancing drugs
Mhm.
and chemical fertilizers. Both work. However, there is a price to pay eventually. And people know that because of the number of scandals that have been affecting athletes, but they don't realize that soil is the same thing. The price to pay for the soil degradation takes longer. But according to a NASA study, the Mississippi carries every minute the equivalent of 22 truckloads of topsoil.
Mm.
That is 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that creates a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico or
Mhm.
of America. Uh, and that is having a major impact. The level of the soil, the arable soil in the Midwest is decreasing, and it is in Europe. It's also I've seen pictures of the edge of a field that is on the edge of a forest. Well, it's you can see the difference, a few inches that is lower than the forest because the forest retains all the organic matter and the microbial life when the soil in the field has been doused with chemicals and the soil has lost a lot of its nutrient and organic matter, and it is subject to erosion.
Yeah,
Emmanuel,
so
touch a little bit more on the, and we'll get back into soil, but about the kitchen and what you're cooking. Is everything coming from the farm? Oh, is it all plant based, or is there some meat
No,
protein?
we have dinners that are vegan. We have dinners that focus on organ meats. So, and anything in between. Last Friday, we had a dinner with French food, and we roasted shoulder of lambs that were stuffed with garlic and rosemary and thyme. And in a few days, we have a Thai dinner. So it covers the gamut.
Hmm. And I know we'll talk about it as we close, but how do you make an appointment for that?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask, is that open to the public? How do you?
It is absolutely. It is open to the public. You can go on our website and see the calendar of events. We have cooking classes. We have some private events, but you can make a reservation online and show up, and you can pay online and you show up. And our prices are all inclusive. So there is tax and gratuities that are included, and we do not serve wine.
Hmm. Hmm. You do weddings?
We're not real. We don't want to be known as a venue, as an event venue, but we, yeah, if we have a spot open, yeah. We're limited to 60 people, so it's not.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it intimate.
So you said earlier, Emmanuel, that there was 330 tons of compost or composted material from the city.
Correct.
Did that all come in at over a short span, or is that something that's continually added annually?
It's initially we brought in. I think 120 cubic yards of that city mulch, and it is rough material.
Right. It wasn't
So
compost.
yeah, it's but most of it is composted, and it degrades pretty. It degrades pretty quickly. And now every year we bring in um, 15, 18 cubic yards. We get 6 cubic yards at a time. Uh, just the city of St. Pete generates on average 50,000 tons of yard waste a year that is being shipped to near Parish. It was shipped on the property of a friend of mine who has a 1,500-acre orange grove. He had a 1,500-acre orange grove and cattle ranch. Now it is covered with construction. But that so that soil is that organic matter, 50,000 tons a year over the whole area of the city. It's not really a lot, but over 10 years or 100 years, it really starts to amount to quite a bit. And at the same time, the city brings in compost from East Hillsboro at, I think it was $38 a cubic yard. So there is, we don't look at yard waste. We call it yard waste when actually it is a resource. And what I would like to see is more opportunities to use that organic matter on within the city, because it would retain more moisture, it would bring in more life. It would have a cooling effect. So there's all kinds of benefits, but now it is perceived as waste, and it costs the city between $1 and $2 million a year without a hurricane to ship it out, Manatee County.
So what have So when you first started, how have you seen, and it just must be fascinating, how you've seen the soil on the farm must have completely transformed by now into something that's really deep, dark, rich, and full of life. What can you tell us about that transformation, and what did you see early on that kind of gave you the indication that, not that you needed any reassurance that you were doing it right, but what was those first indicators that said, well, something's really happening here?
Well, uh, you've met Dane Terrell, and we've asked him to do some regular tests, and we've seen the organic matter go up, and just the presence of earthworms. So earthworms, that was an interesting thing. One day, the Budweiser Clydesdales were in town, and they were trying to get rid of a lot of manure, horse manure. And to me, horse manure is gold. So we got that horse manure, and I got some also from a stable in Hillsboro, and we composted it, and then we used it in the garden. Well, I noticed that all the earthworms, a lot of the earthworms disappeared. And then we were bringing in also, people bring bags of oak leaves. And I noticed that that we use in the pathways, and we composted on the pathway. And the all the earthworms were in the pathways, not in the beds.
Hmm.
And now they are all over, but it took some time to regenerate the population of earthworms, because horses are treated with a vermifuge, and vermifuge remain in the manure. And so we live in a crazy world. We're poisoning ourselves with plastics, with all kinds of chemical residues. I don't know. The future is concerning.
So, what is your fertility kind of program? I mean, I know you got a great base. Uh, I know you do some Korean natural farming techniques, and we've
Right.
never talked about that, but I know
Yeah.
that's something that you're kind of into.
Yeah.
But your soil testing, so are you adding certain fertility that's certified
So
organic?
yes, the latest tests show that we were deficient in magnesium, calcium, and boron. And I think that those are pretty common problems in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So we're adding those, uh, mixing it with compost, and we do some composting here because, as you can imagine, we have a lot of leaves and vegetable leftovers, leaves and stems, and so we do worm. We have a vermicompost bin also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of fertilizer, the only thing we use, and we use maybe 100, 150 pounds a year, is an organic chicken manure fertilizer. That's the only thing. The only outside input, except from the organic matter.
Mm-hmm. So So I guess
Really
you kind of
impressive.
answered my question. I know a lot of our listeners are going to be people that have a garden or want to put in a garden. So, how do they get started? How much compost do they need to put on 1,000 square feet just to get started?
A foot of the yard. Well, there is two things. It's time or money. If we are building we're building a community garden where there will be 34 beds. Now that would require a lot of compost because the beds are big. They are 12 by 4 um, and 18 inches deep. So we could buy compost at 40 and some dollars a cubic yard.
Yeah.
So what we do is that we put in the the rough material at the bottom, and then we put on top something that the city sells that is called soil improver. So it is very rich. It is very carbon rich. And then we add chicken manure. And I also make a mixture of charcoal, activated charcoal powder that we buy locally, and it is very, very fine. It is used by water plants as a filter medium. So we mix that with the fertilizer, and I add what Dale has recommended, the boron, the manganese sulfate, and I can't remember what else, but we mix that and we put it on the top, and with enough chicken manure so that there is enough nitrogen for the decomposition to happen. And then we put some compost tea to really boost the microbiology of the soil.
Mm-hmm.
Very
So
good.
are there any challenges you have? I mean, being surrounded by a concrete jungle, I assume you have that heat island effect. Are there any challenges? I would imagine like midsummer for you all to deal with because you are surrounded by you know everything that's built in a cement environment.
In the summer, we put in a cover crop. Most of the time, we put sun hemp, but we've put in some legumes also. Um, we have quite a few marigolds. So the major challenge that we've had, and we still have it to a certain degree, is with root knot nematodes.
Hmm.
Um, and when I addressed that with Dane, um, he said, let the biology take care of it. And he's right. And when we could not grow okra and beets, or it was challenging, now we grow beautiful beets and okra. We still have some problems, but so we've really reduced the pressure from the root knot nematodes.
Yeah, and that's typically a diversity thing for sure in
Yeah.
the cover cropping world. And I think your beds are predominantly monocultured, a little bit of variety within the bed, but you don't have 20 different varieties of plants in one bed typically, correct or no?
No, we don't, but our beds are 30 inches wide by 40 feet long. And you know what? I'd like to say something about the beds, I haven't done it, but I because our place doesn't really lend itself to it. But I think that one way to avoid crop rotations is a challenge in many instances. And I think that if we did squares, 100 feet by 100 or 200 by 200, and orient the rows north south one year and east west the following year, then
Crop
you don't have
rotation.
you solve the problem, because the only place where you're going to have the same thing 2 years in a row is going to be a spot that is the width of your row. And that would be, but I've never seen that done. So I'm throwing it out as something that I think might be worth trying. But it requires, it should be done in new farms, or if you're changing the setup of the layout of the farm.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, I was just going to ask you, for a lot of our listeners, as Brad said, there's probably a lot of people who grow vegetables in their backyard, have a raised garden or whatnot. And you're doing it on a half acre in the middle of downtown St. Petersburg.
Right.
What sort of advice do you have for the backyard grower who might be listening to us and saying, "Well, I can't get anything to grow"?
We've had dozens of people who came here, and my answer to this question has always been organic matter, organic matter, organic matter. And if you want to speed it up, because you're going to get a lot of the city mulch that is very rich in carbon, you need to add blood meal or the chicken manure, something that is rich in nitrogen to balance it. But organic matter is the answer to starting a healthy garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the biology, and adding biology. So what we do is, according to the natural Korean farming, we collect in I live in an area, in a beautiful area that has a lot of very old trees, and I collect leaf mold there, and we put it in an old sock, and we take some potatoes that we boil, and we put in another sock. We tie the two socks, put them over a piece of broomstick, over a 5-gallon bucket, fill the bucket with water, and put a little sea salt, about a tablespoon of sea salt in it, twist it, and then we massage just like you would be milking a cow. So we milk the socks, and that puts a mixture of starch and the leaf mold. So essentially, what we're doing is we're multiplying, and we're hiring a lot of the most qualified workers, which is what Brad has been doing with when he makes his compost tea. So we are putting all this together. We produce trillions of bacteria that then we spray right away on either in a foliar spray, or we drench the soil with it, and that's how we put the workers to work. So we are hiring the best workers, and then we take care of them because we feed them with enough organic matter, and they go to town, they are happy, they make lots of babies, and everything is fine. So what I'm fascinated with is that the human systems that work are a carbon copy of systems that work in nature. And there is no way around that. And to me, that has been one of the greatest lessons. And the other thing is that in life, to survive, you have to create value for others. And it has been true for bacteria from 4.2 billion years ago to today. And that is, there are some fundamental laws of life that I have become aware of in the last 4 years since I've been doing some research on the book that I've been working on.
I can't agree more. Brad and I talk a lot about it. When you mentioned organic matter, people always ask me, well, what is it? Like, is it the carbon? Is it the microbes? And the answer is yes, right? So when you add that much organic matter, you create life. And I think the biggest challenge for everybody, who's either in agriculture or who's doing a backyard garden is we're always looking for that quick solution, right? The Amazon world that we live in, we could order something and have it shipped to our doorstep tomorrow. And for even large agriculture, we're always looking for that quick fix. And to your point about Mother Nature and the living systems that never fail, it just takes time, and it's so unfortunate that we live in a world that requires everything right now, and it doesn't allow that process of breaking down the law of incubation, right? I believe in there's all kinds of natural laws that we kind of omit in our daily life, and it's unfortunate because I think that what you're doing in St. Pete and what so many people are doing all over the country is a testament that it can be done. It's just a different system. And unfortunately, we've adopted this really large agricultural complex that stuff's being shipped all over the world to deliver to a perfect little grocery store like a Publix or a Detweiler's or something like that. So kudos to everything you're doing there, Emmanuel. I think definitely Brad and I need to take a trip out there. So hopefully before the cover crop gets in, maybe we can go get some pictures and kind of see what you're doing there. We'd love to come visit.
I'm going to France on May 2nd, so don't waste too much time.
So from May till October or September?
No, so I'll be gone from May 2nd to May 12th.
Oh, okay. But your cover crops, they go in. When do you put the cover crops on the?
So we're gonna start putting them in pretty soon. We've had some challenges this year, but they were not environmental challenges. They were human, personal issues.
Sure.
This year we're going to put in the cover crops probably earlier than previous years.
Sure, but do you leave them all summer, or when do you?
Yeah, we're going to have some. We're going to have some peppers. We're growing also some Chinese snake beans, some long beans. So we're going to have. We reduce the area that we're growing in the summer to maybe 1/3 of what we normally do, or what we have during the growing season, because it's beastly hot, and who wants to be working outside in August?
Yeah.
So those crops won't be within the cover crops; they'll be separate.
Yeah, they'll be separate. Yeah.
And are you intending to turn your rows this season, or is that something you're still
Yeah.
thinking about?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So, and we'll put in some sweet potatoes also, because then you don't have to worry about it. and kids love getting digging sweet potatoes.
Mhm.
Excellent.
So great. Emmanuel, thank you so much for being on the Modern Farming Podcast. We really did enjoy this. And like I said, I can't wait to get out there. Brad, maybe we ought to think about it when the new crop goes in, we should make a trip back out there.
Yeah,
Well,
no, we need to go out there and do a live podcast or do an on-site podcast.
and come and have lunch with us.
Will do. Will do. Well, thanks everybody for joining us again on another episode of the Modern Farming Podcast. Emmanuel, if you could maybe just share your website, or how do people find out more about the 15th Street Farm there in St. Pete?
It's 15thstreetfarm.com. So 15thstfarm. And we're on 15th Street, just 4 blocks north of Tropicana Field.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably passed it 100 times. I just didn't know it was there. So,
Yeah.
so encourage everybody to jump on their website, check out what Emmanuel is doing, make a reservation, get a meal, take a tour. I'm excited to go out there ourselves. Thank you again for joining us on the Modern Farming Podcast. Thank you, Emmanuel, and we hope to see you again here this fall.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.